Welcome to this lecture where we'll talk about how projects and milestones in this class are graded. And the purpose is to explain how projects and milestones are graded in this course. And very simply, the quick overview is that when you click test on the upload site and the robot comes to life, and the project that you submitted that you click test on passes all the robot tests, and in addition, which triggers a style check, and I say it passes the style check. If the time when you did this, you click the test, is before the deadline, you get 100%. That's quite simply all there is to it. However, after the deadline, the grade goes down by 5% each late day, but weekends are treated the same as the following Monday. So if the project is due on a Friday, if you finish before Friday, you get 100%. If you finish on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, you get 95%, Tuesday, 90%, and so on. Okay? So it's all based on when you clicked test for a project that went through all the robots tests and the style check. And we already talked about this grading flowchart. Again, your grade is based on when you do this, and it passes the robot and it passes the style check, then you're done. Okay? So it requires you to click test, not just upload your code. So as an example, if the deadline is Friday and on the 15th of the month at 11:59 p.m., you click test and you pass the robot and the style check on maybe a few days late on Tuesday the 12th. I'm sorry, a few days early, Tuesday the 12th, which is 3 days early, okay? You get 100% plus a few extra days to relax. So I highly encourage you to get those few extra days to relax where you don't have to work on the project. If, however, you were a day late or 2 days late or 3 days late, because Saturday and Sunday count the same as Monday, the following Monday, they're all 95%. They're all treated as one weekday late. If it was Wednesday the 20th, then it would be 85%, which is 3 weekdays late, and so on. Suppose you click test and you pass the robot, but not the style check on the 15th. And remember, the 15th is the day that it's due. So you click test and you pass the robot, but you do not pass the style check. You get a no on that style check. But you do pass everything on the 16th. Then your grade is still 95%. Why is it 95%? Even though you passed the robot on the 15th? Because you clicked test and passed everything on the 16th. Okay. So my advice to you is to get your work done early. Start on your projects early. Get 100% on them because you can turn them in anytime before the deadline and get 100%. So don't worry, be happy. And that's why when I was writing this slide, it made me think of Don't Worry, Be Happy and Bobby McFerrin. Great song. Most of the projects in this class, except for the first one, will have milestones. And these milestones are going to be chunking the project into smaller sized bits. And they serve several purposes. First of all, they're a tiny part of your grade. They're not worth that much, but you don't do them for the grade, okay? More importantly, they guide you logically through the project. So they break the project into, if you do this first and this second and this third, it's going to make sense more than if I just said, go do it all. They also help you keep track of time. So if you do the projects according to the milestones, you'll be finished in time for the deadline. You'll be finished in time to get 100%. It also allows you to get feedback from me or from an automated system that I wrote earlier than the deadline. Okay, so even if your project isn't 100% complete, you can still get some feedback on your project. And there's also an incentive to finish early. Let me see here. I need to skip ahead. Yeah, so I'll talk about that incentive in just a few slides. So how to submit milestones. Turning in a milestone means you submit the relevant files to the robot. That means you upload them, but it does not mean clicking test. And you wouldn't click test because on a milestone, you presumably have not finished the whole project, so the robot shouldn't be testing your whole project yet. So you upload the code, but you don't have to click test. In fact, you probably shouldn't click test. In addition, you should turn in a milestone that has the relevant file. So if it says fill in these functions, you fill in those functions and you submit that code. In addition, you should also submit a test driver, and that test driver should be code that you wrote for the express purpose of testing those functions that you turned in for the milestone. Okay, so that shows that you've been testing them. What you submit for a milestone should compile and it should run at some basic level. It should at least compile and it should run. It should not crash. And the reason I tell you this is because the current solution I have for giving you feedback on your milestones and grading them is based on some automated tests. So I take your code and I compile it in with my code, and it runs some tests and gives you feedback on whether it's working correctly. Well, if your code doesn't compile, or if it crashes, for example, the automated tests will not work and you'll essentially get no points for that milestone. So make sure at a bare minimum that your code for a milestone compiles and doesn't crash. Okay, I know that's hard to do sometimes, but don't just throw some code together and call it a milestone. The purpose here is to write correct code and get feedback on that correct code. All right, there's a little bit of, I just wanted to talk briefly about when to turn in a milestone, when to submit it. If it's the first milestone for a given project, you can turn it in anytime before the milestone deadline. Okay, so if the first project's milestone is due next Thursday at 12 o'clock, you can turn it in anytime between now and then. But if it's after the first milestone, turn it in after the previous milestone, but before the deadline. Okay, so for example, turn in milestone 2 before milestone, if you turn in milestone 2 before milestone 1 is due, then milestone 2 doesn't count as having been submitted. And that's just due to the way I keep accounting of these submissions. So only submit a milestone after the previous one has finished, okay? Now, here's the grading incentive I mentioned earlier. There's a grading incentive for getting your projects done early. And here it is. If you pass the robot, in other words, you write your complete program and it passes all the robot's tests, doesn't have to pass the style check, but if it passes all the robot's tests before some milestone is due, you get 100% on that milestone and all future milestones for that project, okay? Regardless of whether you turn those milestones in or not. And why am I giving you this as an incentive? Well, because the milestones are there to keep you on track to get you to finish the project on time. But if you finish the project early, clearly you did not need those milestones. Okay, so it's an incentive to work ahead of the milestones. So get the projects done, get them done early, follow the milestones, or even get ahead of the milestones, but at least use them as a sequence of what you should do first, second, third. Okay? So come back and we'll talk more about how to get through this class.